We're here today with Conversations with Cheryl Weston. Is here today with Omaha Chief Todd Schmaderer. I hope I didn't destroy your name too much.
You got it right, perfectly.
But first, I want to say thank you very much for giving time because I know you're quite busy in that. But there's been some issues in our community, particularly in North Omaha, and I've been doing a report and some research on it, and I wanted to ask you some things to get very clear for the community as well as those who are in our audience. So, and I want to give a disclosure. He was very cordial. He didn't ask. He does not have had the questions ahead of time, so there's no prepared answers. He's doing this, and I do appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But I want, because a lot of times people say, "Oh, okay, that was all planned." No, thank
Cheryl,
you so much.
Let me say this. It's a pleasure to sit down with you. You've been a leader in this community for a long time, so I'm happy to have you here to do this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to give you some tough questions first.
Fire away.
That way we get the easier questions. It'll be like a little bit I'll leave here with, man, I missed that.
You got it.
So to start it off, how would you say, or what is your feelings as to what is the temperature, the atmosphere in the North Omaha community that you feel like?
Sure. Well, right now, the temperature is high. It's too high for me as chief. I don't like to see it this high. We've spent a lot of time trying to get it better. I can tell you 13 years ago, when I took over as chief, my mission was really twofold. Improve police community relations and reduce the number of shootings that we were having in our community. Way too many people were being shot. And because of that, our homicides were way too high. And so on both fronts, we made so many strides because you cannot lower shootings without improving police community relations. It's an interesting dynamic. When community relations are struggling, the crime seems to go up. And that's a byproduct that we really want to avoid. And I think you're seeing that a little bit right now. And we'll dive into that. So we used to have about 250 shootings a year. And a good portion of those were in our North Omaha community. Now we're down to 50, 60, 70 sometimes. But the point is way under 100 almost every year. So I'm so proud of our partnerships and the work we've done. And really, I think the North Omaha leadership has just been absolutely stellar. And so we've been able to reduce that crime. And things were flowing really well. The second piece to police community relations that causes such damage, huge amount of damage, is when we have officer-involved shootings. And when I first took over, we were coming off years of 11 and 12. In 2010, 2011, we had over 10 each year. And I thought to myself, that's way too high. And so we made a concerted effort to lower those. And we did. And we hit really low numbers, 1, 2, 3 a year. And for a city our size, some expectation of when you have 900 officers and 500,000 population, sometimes there are things that will occur. It's called population certainty, but we do feel that you can control that outcome as much as possible. Avoid the situations and know that professional policing balance of when those desperately need to take place. And so we did such a great job of this, but the last 2 years, 2023 and 2024, it kicked up to 7. And so we made a concerted effort at that point in time to retrain all our officers, really double down and take an analysis of everything that we are doing on that front, because I don't want a city that I police in to have that many officer-involved shootings. And so that has really worked for the Omaha Police Department, because this year we're sitting at 1. And I can tell you on the one that did happen was basically an active shooter, and the officers had to take action. So what we try to do is really zero in and try to lower those, because there's 3 layers I look at when you look at officer-involved shootings. And I think we're going to get into that as probably the cause of the high tensions right now. 3 things I look at. 1, there's the legal aspect. That's the easy threshold. Okay, if it's legal. Higher and more important to me is, does it conform to our policies, and does it conform to our ethics and morals? did it absolutely have to be done? Now, the legal barometer is much lower. And so
Can
that,
I interject in that?
sure.
What do you mean when you say the legal?
So the legal barometer is whether or not the officer commits a crime. And so that barometer is lower. We train policies and procedures and training, which is higher.
Mm-hmm.
It's a higher threshold than the legality of what the law says is right and wrong. So we train it higher. But then I also look at, do we go higher into the moral and ethics category of that it absolutely have to be done? And sometimes it does. When somebody's life is in danger or somebody is being killed, sometimes law enforcement has to take action. But the goal is to try to inoculate ourselves and not put us in those situations until we need to do it. And so that is the goal, and that's our strive. And that's been something that I put a focus on for the last 13 years. So in 2023 and 2024 is really disheartening for me to see police community relations hit tension highs because of that fact. Completely understand it though. I really do. The last thing I would want to be in is a city that doesn't react to that. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That would be that's a worst case scenario right there.
Yeah.
And so the community has really told us, hey, we want this done better. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, as chief, I understand that.
Well, it kind of made it easy to kind of segue into what do you feel like is the cause of this increase? And I want to be upfront and honest what I feel the cause is.
Okay.
And that's where we're coming into more of this. It seems like a battle between the Omaha Police Department and the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. So I'm just being honest, where it's coming from, where the community feels like it
Sure.
is. You may not feel that way. Sheriff Hansen may not feel that way, but it is. And bringing that in, I'd like to ask you, because the community is saying, well, who has jurisdiction? Who is the law enforcement in the city? And how come the Douglas County? And there was a comment made by Senator, got that on my mind, Sheriff Hansen, take it down. And I'm going to paraphrase it, is to sum up, I control. I am the big dog. Everything answers to me. And then in the letter that you responded to, wrote to him regarding this last incident with JI, is I realize the DCSO has jurisdiction in all of Douglas County, but make no mistake, the Omaha Police Department is the primary law enforcement agency for the City of Omaha. So if that is true, we are wondering, why are we seeing so much of the Douglas County Sheriff's Department in our community? And now we're seeing like Douglas, Washington County police cars in our community.
Sure. I think that's a great question. And I think obviously the community wants to know that. And so you appreciate you just jumping right to it. Because it is important. So the jurisdiction of the City of Omaha, the primary law enforcement agency for the City of Omaha is the Omaha Police Department. We're commissioned to police our community. Now, Douglas County is Omaha, but there's an unincorporated aspect to it that's not Omaha. And so the Douglas County Sheriff's Department is budgeted and has traditionally been commissioned to police that area. Now, the two agencies do overlap quite a bit. We could throw the Nebraska State Patrol in as well because they have control over the whole state. But and including Nebraska, so they're free to come into Nebraska legally. But generally, the parameters have been they come in when we ask for assistance. We cooperate on things. We'll go into their jurisdiction when they ask for assistance. And so, really what kind of got the rub going is, I'll call it good intentions on both sides. But Douglas County, in my opinion, started to police a little bit more primarily in the City of Omaha. And I think they were trying to be helpful because we were low staffed and we were trying to get our staffing levels up. But because of that, we've had some tensions rise in the community.
Definitely.
And I noticed you taken some notes from the letter that I wrote.
Yes.
So that letter it was an internal communication, wasn't designed to be, released to the public, but it was. So I'll talk about it. I will say that I stand by everything that I wrote in the letter. But since then, I have had conversations with Sheriff Hansen. We seem to be catching more of a meeting of the minds on this. The two executives, myself and him, we want to work together, but we want it done in a way that's good for our community in the City of Omaha. And that's what we're striving for. And I know there's been some meetings with the mayor and Sheriff Hansen too. So we're really zoning in on what is the best product that we can give to our community, because I think we can all agree the tensions that we have right now in North Omaha is not the tensions that is in the best interest of our community.
The city.
Because
as a
whole.
What affects one
Absolutely.
community eventually
Yep.
will run over into another.
Absolutely. And really, and also, Cheryl, there's kind of a double-edged sword going on right now in Omaha and across this country. Our South Omaha community, I haven't seen this level of fear, trepidation that they have currently right now as well. When you talk about the immigration and deportation issue, they are afraid. When I go to community meetings in our South Omaha community, they're afraid to leave their house somewhere. And so that's a concern to us. So we have that aspect that we're working through as well. Now, obviously, the Omaha Police Department doesn't bear any responsibility for that. That's more of a national piece. But we are policing in South Omaha. And the last thing I want is witnesses afraid to come forward, victims afraid to come forward and remain as victims within their home because they're afraid of the Omaha Police Department. So those are two things that we're really dealing with right now. And I can tell you this, I'm happy to have 13 years of experience to get through this. So I guess what I'm saying is with 13 years of experience, I've been through these ups and downs, and I'm going to try to maneuver this police department through it and the city through it as best I can, because I want what's best for our community. Built way too many good relationships up there. Even when I'm not chief, I got so many friends in our North Omaha community that I plan to keep. And right now I can say, as we sit here and do this interview, I see some positive signs getting out of this. I really do.
So, and getting a couple of other notes I had here on your letter was, there was a really, I think, a nerve that was touched is that you said you had not been contacted about those special operations going on. He said, Sheriff Hansen said, the police department was contacted. So, who's right? Who's right? Who's telling the truth here now?
Well, here's the genesis of what happened. So, Douglas County detectives were looking into that case. They did make Omaha police detectives aware that they were looking at that case. We had some knowledge of it as well. At the moment in time that there was surveillance going on in that location, the moment in time at 2 a.m, whatever it was, at that moment in time, the Omaha Police Department did not know the Douglas County Sheriff's Department was there. And so my officers responded to that situation quickly.
And with that in mind, it takes me into something that's really been within the last several weeks, bugging me also, is this item number 3738 that was on the city council agenda, where you signed with Mayor Salford, who was mayor at that time, on May 19th, and she signed it on the 20th, for this interlocal agreement between the Douglas County Sheriff's Department, SWAT, and the Douglas County, or the Washington County. And when I did the research on that, there were what was called assistance agreements back in 2020, which basically would have covered what should be happening and should be happening. Why did you feel the need to put this in with the SWAT in there?
Really all that was, Cheryl, was just a standard renewal of an interlocal agreement.
But I found no interlocal agreement. The city provides that they did not find a local interlocal agreement with SWAT.
Yeah, it's
the last one was an assistance.
Well, I think it's pretty much the same thing. We're not doing anything extra with that at all. That's more of just a legal standard. That allows my SWAT team, if I have an incident that carries, let's say I have something that carries me outside of the city of Omaha, basically what that allows me to do is utilize my SWAT team for that. It also, so if I have something in Douglas County that's unincorporated, now my SWAT team can go and address that. That's all that is. It's not an enhanced cooperative agreement on any level.
You're not taking that as an enhanced. That does not mean the other side.
I'm not taking it as an enhanced, and I don't think the other side is either. It's been that way for long periods of time. We have really, really doubled down our coordination efforts with Douglas County since the Jahidi Ibrahim situation. We have doubled down and really tried to make our working arrangement solid, because that's obviously my strive, Cheryl, because I just don't want anything to come up in our community that causes further problems. And so as chief, I'm trying to ensure that.
An incident that happened last, I believe it was, I attended the Empowerment Network 360, which I haven't done for some time. When I go there, but anyway,
I did see you there. I waved at you. I don't know if you saw me.
that was like I have been there for a month. But if you were there, and when you heard, I don't remember what his rank is. All I remember is Spencer. He commented on an incident that happened on the 34th in Paxton, and it was where. And in the community, there were, I didn't see a video online, but evidently there was a great presence of the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. They arrested the individual and so forth. There were no shooting incidents. But there's someone asked a follow-up question. Was the police department, Omaha Police Department, aware of that? And what was their involvement?
So I have to go back to my memory bank here because I don't recall that aspect of 360. But so let me go to what I recall from the 34th in Paxton.
I think it was 34th. I wrote down 34th.
Or was it 24th Street?
No, it was off of Paxton Boulevard.
So there must be.
There was a prod involved.
There must be two different.
There was another.
I think there's
incident.
two, and they both cause the same level of confusion or consternation, if you will.
Okay.
Essentially, the federal government in Douglas County, and I think on both of them, Omaha Police Household had a role. They were serving search warrants in those areas, and so that's why you would see the heavy police presence of county, Omaha, and the things there.
And that was the 24th Street incident.
That was the 24th. The 34th Street one, I'm not 100% familiar with as I sit here right now, but in my recollection, it was along those same lines.
Because it occurred, he said, due to a fraudulent, and I guess they call it financial situation. And he wasn't quite sure. He said, but I believe the Omaha Police Department was covered. But evidently, from what people were saying, they saw it as Douglas County.
And it could have been their primary case. I guess the point on both of those is the judge had signed off on their presence there, basically, with a warrant. And so, Cheryl, there will always be occasions like that where cases will overlap. Some of our cases will take us into Bellevue and other places as well. When we do that, generally a judge will issue a warrant. And with that warrant, they're basically giving us the authority to go there. Good question, thank you.
Get your memory stirred up. And keep that memory going on the 360 because I have one question to come back to that.
I'll try.
Another question I had was concerning the hiring of Officer Vale, who you fired, and with good reason, because as you said, you have a policy in force that you're trying to make where you should follow this policy, keep the community, and so forth. Hansen said in his statement, he said, I did check with internal police department before he hired him. Were you aware?
So as we dug back on that particular matter,
Mm-hmm.
there was some contact between Douglas County's internal affairs and my internal affairs, and at no time was the case file reviewed.
Okay. Meaning Vale's case.
Correct. That case file was not reviewed. Now, did his work history? I think his work history was provided,
Mm-hmm.
but the details of that incident weren't provided, which is a personnel matter. So I can't get into that. But his work history was provided to Douglas County outside of that IA file. So no review of that IA file
was reviewed.
Right.
Okay. So that's going back to that 360. I'm curious. Would you explain what do you think the 360? Because when I did other research, crime has gone down nationally. It really has.
It did last year.
What?
Yes.
Well, a couple more years too. But anyway, and I got to sit next to the FBI agent, so he's going to be on their program.
Oh, is he? Well, very good. You are so persuasive.
So, you gotta watch what you say because we got you in camera here.
Uh-huh.
So, but anyway, yes, he's gonna be on because I wanted to talk to him too. But I try to, because it hasn't really changed from the last time I was there, maybe other personnel and so forth. But explain to community, because a lot of people say, what is it that you can say the 360 is doing to bring the crime down that really is coming down? But in these last couple of years, the homicides have really increased as 23, 24, part of this 25. Not just law enforcement, but homicides with crime on each other.
Well,
What is 360?
Yeah, let me give the terrain on crime first,
Okay.
from a local and a national viewpoint, and then we'll dive into 360 piece. I think that's the best way I can answer this question.
That's fine.
So when you look at Omaha's crime numbers, and you go back to, let me just go back to when I started,
Mm-hmm.
because that's my best memory point. Obviously, you have a good recollection of the crime data from when I started. And all index crimes, every crime that we chart is basically down since then. And when we talked about shootings being about 250 a year now they're way at the 50, 60 level.
Okay.
They're very tremendous decrease, a decrease that's received a lot of national attention. You will not find another major city in this country nationally that has those low number of decreases in shootings, and that they don't exist. Omaha's an outlier on that front, and I do feel police community relations and the way we've cohesively worked together is a reason for that. Now, when we talk about a crime drop nationally, from 2023, homicides were pretty high in this country, very high in a lot of cities. Omaha actually was on a downward trend then.
Mm-hmm.
So the homicides were going up in all the other cities, they're still going down here. In 2024, this is my opinion, Cheryl, crime got so high that there was a natural regression. There was a statistical regression. The way I look at things with crime numbers, 1 year versus 1 year, one versus 1 year, that doesn't tell me anything. I want to see 3 years of sustained movement, one way or the other, that's sufficient to make me say, okay, crime is on the low or crime is on the rise. Coming off, because otherwise you're coming off to statistical numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we hit a statistical high, naturally we come down. Meaning no intervention probably took place that affected that drop. Sometimes when you're on really low crime, sometimes it can go a little higher. And that's just statistical things that occur. But when you're consistently lower in crime, year after year after year, and we have here in Omaha, as it relates to the violent crime and the shootings and the homicides, the spike we did have was obviously the COVID year in 2020. Personally, I think you see the spike because we lost all our partners. partners. The only game in town was the Omaha Police Department.
Mhm.
And so we lost our partners. We saw a spike in crime. And since then, we've lowered it. Every year, including this year, was even lower than last year. Last year, we had record 30, 40-year lows in our violent crime. So I'm very.
So you're saying it's because of partners, meaning what? Is it because
And when I
you're
say,
able to try to?
I do. I think the partnerships, police community relations, when that is working well, you see crime drops. And when I talk about community relations, I'm talking about identifying where the problems are, working together to resolve them, whether they're crime issues or. One thing about community relations that I like is it addresses root causes of crime too. We should be looking at poverty levels, graduation rates, breakdowns of the family, things like that. Improvements in Omaha over the course of time, the last 10 years on those fronts, obviously I feel is part of police community relations and a reason for why we have lower number of crime. So I look at all of that. And I tie that into police community relations because without that relationship, it's hard for the government and the community to really address those, how should I call them, underlying reasons for crime. And so that's why I put such an emphasis on police community relations, but also, and this is an attribute that I think 360 does. When something happens in a community, we all convene there.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't been there in a long time, Cheryl, because you're off doing your own work. That's great. And I say that positively. But you even came back for it, right? You wanted to see a meeting, right?
Exactly what I could grasp from
And
that.
so
That's changed.
they provided a forum,
Mhm.
a location where everybody could come and get this matter hashed out because it needed to be hashed out. Don't you
Mhm.
agree?
I agree.
And so I think at the very least we can say at least that took place.
Mhm.
And without 360, what we generally would have is several different sets of it.
Mhm.
It wasn't one big come together. And so I like that aspect of it. The thing about 360 that on the weekly basis that we meet is all those root causes of crime, graduation rates, poverty,
Mhm.
our youth and jobs program, all these things are analyzed and we address those. But also when there's policing matters, I get the community's feedback of how they want me to change the policing in the community. How do we want to do this and that? And I can tell you, we've evolved into a much more professional police agency because of that. So I like that aspect of 360, but I would be a little myopic if I just put it all on that because we have a lot of community partners and working relationships that are out there.
That
And,
aren't necessarily involved with 360.
and they're not, there's a lot of times not at all.
Mhm.
And they're doing incredible work on the street level. I have a lot of leaders on the street level crime reduction front that do an incredible job with victims in the aftermath of crimes. They do an incredible job working with families when we had the kids drown in the river. Those are just examples. These leaders step up all the time in our community and make things better. And so that's why I say 360 is great. And it's a national model being replicated all across the country. But that is just one thing. And your work and all the other street leaders, I'll call them for lack of a better term, because they're leaders, are making a tremendous difference in our community. And one thing that I will say, Cheryl, is I do have a working relationship with them and I appreciate them. I think we have a good, healthy relationship. The one thing I don't do is when I'm contacted by anybody, I never divulge who contacts me. That's just as chief of police. If they want to, they can talk about it, but I don't.
That's good
And
for
that-
people to know.
Yeah, that's
That,
just my trust level that I want to establish, and
And that helps to keep
yeah,
or to reduce fear about some people coming.
right,
I can remember one of the meetings I did attend where people felt like, well, first they got chastised by one of the officers who
Mhm.
gave a report about they didn't get this citizens input or
Yeah.
citizens, but then a citizen stepped up. But yes, you did get it because people felt like they could come and say, hey, this happened. Because there is the fear, if you're a witness to something as, I don't want it because then you're going to put me on Front Street, as the kids say, and that's not what you want to be in some of these instances.
100%. If I could just expand on that example,
Sure.
I'll take 30 seconds is all. I'll get emails from community leaders that ask me to look into kids being removed from the home, whether or not it was done appropriately. I'll get calls, emails, text. I get all of these calls. I'll never ever divulge who calls me. Now, oftentimes I will see down the road that they'll say, hey, I called the chief, he helped me out, or we talked to the chief about it, he said this, but it's always coming from that other side. And so when you and I started talking to Cheryl, nobody knows. Nobody knows. You just decided to have a podcast with me here, so now everybody knows.
I asked you, I always throw it out and I say, all they can say is yes or no to me, and so, that's it, but
here's why I said yes. I thought you have a heartbeat of the community. You've been a leader for a long time. I think it was high time we sat down.
Well, thank you. I do. And when I first met you, I did have a conversation with you at a town hall meeting, and so.
I remember that actually.
Yeah.
That was 12 years ago.
It was in your first year or maybe second year. It was really pretty close. And that was something else is that, as I mentioned before we started the taping was, you are the longest chief of police officer in the city of Omaha, Nebraska, which kind of takes into this other, I was going to hold it for my very last one, but since we're right here, I'm going to say it. There's been rumors that you are planning on thinking about retiring. Would you like to have any comment to that?
Sure, I would love to comment on that. I've received an extension for 5 more years, and I plan to serve those 5 years here in Omaha. And the reason for that is our progress. And obviously, we've just had a mayoral transition. I could tell you that this transition has been incredibly positive. I have known Mayor Ewing for a long time. I've known Tom Warren as chief of staff for a long time, and we are on the same page. I think public safety is in good hands with the 3 of us, and all 3 of us recognize right now the situation that Omaha is in, and we don't want to continue to be in this situation with this spike in police-community relations issues. Now, the violence piece that occurred 2 weeks ago, we seem to have gotten a little bit of a handle on that. That's positive. But we are sitting here today, you and I, because of that percolating police-community relations issues. And the 3 of us are on the same page as trying to resolve that. And so what I see for the future of Omaha, I think it's bright. And I think the future of North Omaha and then the greater city as a whole is very bright, and I want to be a part of it.
Cover just really quick, because I don't want to take all of this time, but I appreciate the time. One of the things that out of that 360 meeting that I heard, and that was really, I knew it, but when you hear something, it's different than when you read something and get an idea. And it was very sad to think that there are 8 to 900 individuals that will be coming out of the prison system. And there's nowhere for them to go in a train. What do you feel, or are you getting prepared for it? Because isn't that a sign that there's probably going to be an increase in violence or criminal activities?
Absolutely. 13 years ago, two things when I was in the legislature that my office, the chief of police office, myself, we raised the alarm on 2 things: mental health and rehabilitation in our prison system. We felt both of those issues were affected Omaha drastically to the negative. Since then, the mental health piece, the number of beds, the number of acumen within our agency, the number of available resources in the community has grown a ton. And we've made huge strides. in the prison system, they started to make some strides. A little bit later in that process, and I think you've seen the strides maybe the last 3-4 years. But the reality of it is, if, let's say, I think these numbers are fairly accurate, but they're going to be tweaked a little because I'm going off just rogue memory here. But let's say 30 to 40% of the prison population in the state of Nebraska comes from Omaha.
Mhm.
More than that, when they get out, will come to Omaha.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is you go to where families at, you go where potential jobs are at, you go where you think you have a chance of making a start. And so my position is, as chief, if more people are going to come out and come to Omaha for that opportunity, we should provide that. And that's where I like my partnerships with the community, because I see re-entry partnerships a lot in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, quite frankly, if we could double those efforts, and by no fault of the community, their leaders are stepping up doing that. But I'd like to see as much government support from the state, federal level. I know the city does as much as we can. Let's really augment that, because if we can transition them, they come in here to try to make it right. If we can transition them and they don't recidivate and go back to prison, what a great situation we have. And so I think that data subset is incredibly important. Crime-wise, quality of life-wise, everything.
Because I think it's even higher a percentage that are in prison that are from North Omaha. And
Yeah.
I will say, from having lived in North Omaha, a very high percentage,
Yeah.
more than 50 over plus percent will be coming back to Omaha, and it will be North Omaha,
Yep.
because that's where you have the highest population
Yep.
of all criminal activity is in North Omaha. And one of the things at 360 I noticed was when all these different locations of officers gave their report, and it was like, Southwest, we didn't hear about that on the news. Over here, North, we didn't hear about that. But if it's North Omaha, front page, breaking news and that. And
Yeah.
or I don't know if it's even possible, but maybe there needs to be some from the police department to say, hey, come on, give us, you're not helping. Have you had communications with the mainstream media
Oh, yeah.
to say, you know?
Oh, yeah. I work with the media all the time. I try to get them to report what the terrain is and not focus on the one incident.
Okay.
Because the one thing that really gets me is, let's say we have one incident and then it's reported on for 3 days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes the thing seem like there's been triple the amount.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of it is, North Omaha is rich in tradition. They've got great people down there. Crime isn't nearly as bad
No.
as what everybody makes it out to be.
It's just that every incident is
Yeah.
blown up.
It's a very safe community. And also to that is there's crime in every part of this
Every
city.
part, and that was
Every
what
single part.
every single one of them
And
came up. It was like,
What you're saying is, and I agree with you, is who would know that,
yeah,
right?
you
Who
had
would
an
know
incident,
that?
I would not have known that. After this, I did find a online where I can go and see
Yeah.
the police, but the whole thing is the way it's presented.
Yep.
And I do want to ask them, it's really been a thing with, particularly with Douglas County Sheriff's Department, and he hasn't agreed. He did have on my podcast once, but he hasn't agreed to the second one. But what is your feelings towards this pressure to put lower rates on? The county is pushing for 11-year-olds to be incarcerated, sentenced, handled as if they're adults. Where do you stand on that?
That legislative bill, that was one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3-4 other aspects. When I looked at that bill, the Omaha Police Department weighed in as neutral on that bill. And the reason we didn't support it, per se, is because we liked a couple aspects of it. The one area that made us concerned was the 11-year-old piece. And our community partners were really adamant that is not something that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And we're partners with our community. And so we wanted to say, okay, our community partners have good reasons, valid reasons why that's not something that they want. And we're not going to be a part of pushing that bill forward in defiance of that. basically. And I understand the community's position on it. So call me in agreement.
Yeah, 11-year-old does not have, well, some adults at 40 years don't have the brains, but.
The other piece to that too is great intentions designed to shore up a hole in our system is why that was put out there. I don't think it was put out there for any bad reason. But if we're struggling to deal with juvenile justice issues now, we're certainly not at the point where we can deal with it.
Exactly. That's a good point. Just one more, if we've got enough
Sure.
time, is what would you like to say to the audience in North Omaha, particularly? And I didn't get into this last incident with the police department, Omaha Police Department, Mr. Henley, due to the fact that I figured it was probably an ongoing investigation. You really couldn't say much about it. What would you like to say to North Omaha in that regards? And you were commended for putting out the video, whether people went along with that or not. They saw one thing, you saw another, but what would you like to tell our community regarding that incident, where you stand, what's being done?
For just a general Mr.
Yes.
Henry's incident. Yeah, what I want to say about that is, I've been around for 13 years. A lot of the community knows me. If we look at just the macro trend line and we look at my time, I think we can all agree that it's better now.
Mm-hmm.
We've worked out problems together. I've always been a man of my word with the community. Have not wavered on that. The one thing that people won't say, you'll never hear anybody say the chief lied, because I've never done that. I try to call it like I see it. In the case of Mr. Henry, I just did not see any negative policing on that particular issue. Now there's a second part to that. There's two investigations. What happened with Mr. Henry when he got to corrections?
And we do need to say that is Douglas County. That is not
that is,
Omaha.
and we don't know yet. Apparently that investigation is still going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other aspect of this, and as chief, I think it's important the community knows what that aspect is as well.
Well, I know I probably ran over my little time here, but I
Okay.
want to thank you very
Thank
much.
you. I appreciate it.
And I hope this won't be our last conversation.
Let's not make it so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.